Imagine standing before thousands, discussing one of America's deadliest debates. Then you're shot. Moments earlier, the question was about mass shootings. The answer is Charlie Kirk's final exchange, before the bullet. This is the story of who he was, what he believed, and how his life ended in a shocking moment that's rattling the nation. Charlie Kirk was not born into fame. At age 18, he co-founded Turning Point USA, a conservative youth movement that quickly grew. He became a major figure in right-wing politics, on college campuses, social media, and often near the center of America's culture wars. He built a reputation as a provocateur, constantly pushing boundaries. Kirk's rise came through controversy. He was a fierce defender of the Second Amendment, free speech, and conservative values. His circle included prominent Trump allies. He could fire up crowds and shape conversations, not only on policy but on identity, race, gender, violence. For millions, he was a voice of affirmation. For others, a source of division. In September 2025, Kirk launched what he called the American Comeback Tour, a series of public events aimed at expanding his audience and reinforcing his message. One of the first stops, Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. Thousands gathered under tents, for what was supposed to be a lively debate, Q&A, and speech. Nothing out of the ordinary for Kirk. About 20 minutes into the UVU event, a student asked Kirk, "Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Kirk paused, then replied, "Counting or not counting gang violence?" It was a moment of tension, but also of rhetorical setup. One of those moments where belief, data, fear, identity mix together. And then, the shot came. Witnesses say the bullet came from a roof, off the Losi Center building on campus, about 140 to 200 yards away. It was precise. A single bullet through the neck. Chaos erupted. People screamed, dropped, scrambled for cover. Moments before, none of this seemed possible. Kirk slumped in his chair. Blood spilled. An activist's life ended mid-sentence. He was rushed to Timpanogos Regional Hospital. Despite emergency efforts, Charlie Kirk was pronounced dead. President Trump confirmed his death shortly after. Officials quickly called the shooting a political assassination. People across America, on both sides of the divide, expressed shock, grief, anger. Beyond the speeches and controversies, who was he as a person? Married, father of children, Christian faith, driven by conviction. He didn't just debate, he polarized. Supporters saw him as tireless, unapologetic. Critics saw him as aggressive, provocative, sometimes incendiary. But few disputed his ability to influence. He made youth and campuses battlegrounds of ideas, and often won attention. Law enforcement sprang into action. Security camera footage showed a person climbing stairwells to the roof, the suspected vantage point. A bolt-action rifle believed to be the weapon was later found in nearby woods. Bullet casings, possible markings. But as of now, motives are murky. Is it ideology? Mental illness? A statement? The public demanded answers. Authorities announced that the suspect in Charlie Kirk's killing is a 22-year-old Utah man, Tyler Robinson. According to investigators, Robinson began expressing political views in opposition to Kirk's ideology in the lead-up to the shooting. Surveillance footage and digital messages, from chat platforms like Discord, showed him communicating anti-fascist rhetoric and even some meme-laden exchanges before the event. He was not a student at Utah Valley University. He had no previous criminal record, and family members claim they saw a change, radicalization, fixation, escalation. The weapon used, a .30-06 bolt-action rifle, recovered in woodlands near the UVU campus. Along with the rifle, investigators found ammunition with inscribed messages, some anti-fascist slogans, others referencing internet memes. One casing read, "Notices bulge OWO, what's this?" a phrase tied to online culture. The bullet was fired from a rooftop, Losi Center building, about 140-200 yards away, giving the shooter a vantage point. The combination of distance, angle, weaponry, and planning pointed toward premeditation, not random violence. After an intense 33-hour manhunt, Tyler Robinson was arrested. The break came when his father recognized Robinson in photos released by authorities and urged him to surrender. Initially, Robinson resisted, but ultimately turned himself in. Law enforcement also recovered messages, both in digital communications and from accomplices, possibly, linking him to the rifle, its acquisition, and planning of the shot. Officials described Robinson's behavior in recent months as escalating, with a growing opposition to Kirk's conservative activism, perhaps ideological, perhaps personal. As of now, formal charges are being prepared. Understanding motive has become the centerpiece of the story. Robinson's social media and message history show criticism of right-wing politics, overt opposition to Kirk's views, and anti-fascist leanings. The inscribed ammo also suggests symbolic or ideological anger, not just personal grievance. Some analysts caution against simplistic labels. Ideology intersects with grievance, personal context, maybe mental health. Meanwhile, conservative voices have condemned Robinson's actions as the inevitable outcome of liberal rhetoric demonizing conservatives. Liberal voices counter that rhetoric alone doesn't kill, but in a climate of tension, extremists can be inspired to violence. The debate over political violence and Hobert's responsibility has expanded beyond this case. Within hours of the shooting, reactions rolled in from every corner. Politicians condemned the act, media outlets debated what it revealed about the state of U.S. political discourse, and citizens reacted with grief, rage, confusion. Donald Trump called it political violence, accusing the radical left of creating a climate that leads to such attacks. Democrats and liberals pushed back, stressing that political disagreement is not a license for violence. They emphasized mental health, extremist content online, and gun control as part of the root problem. Media analysts warned, this is a flashpoint. If the response spirals, if revenge rhetoric, conspiracy theories, and misinformation dominate, it could worsen polarization. Across campuses and halls of government, among commentators, one question lingers. Will this be a moment of reckoning or of escalation? Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow, stepped into the spotlight hours after his death, not just in mourning, but in purpose. She declared his mission would not end with his life. Turning Point USA would still push ahead with its fall campus tour. Its AmericaFest conference would go on as planned. She called Charlie a martyr for the causes of patriotism, faith, and free speech. Every speech she gives, every event she supports, she frames like a banner. The evildoers responsible have no idea what they have done. Erica insists this was not just a murder, it's a spark. From the moment news broke, political leaders rushed to respond. President Trump called for the death penalty, called Charlie a great guy from top to bottom. Some Republican figures blamed the radical left for cultivating hostility. Some Democrats and centrists emphasized that rhetoric can incite violence, but responsibility is shared. Utah's governor, Spencer Cox, made a rare bipartisan appeal, or de-escalation, for rejecting the spiral of revenge. These reactions aren't just words. They are lines in the sand. Orem, Utah, quiet, tight-knit, largely conservative and deeply religious, is reeling. A town used to political rallies has never before seen blood on campus like this. UVU, thousands of students, faculty, visitors, all caught in something they never imagined. Memorials pop up. Debates are everywhere. In cafes, on campuses, online. Some defend Kirk's legacy. Others scrutinize his style. But almost no one is untouched. Even people who disagreed with him now wonder, what kind of world allows this to happen? One consequence is immediate. Events are being canceled or scaled down. Political figures are canceling public appearances. Universities are revisiting security protocols, metal detectors, screening, police presence, crowd control. But many fear that such measures might be too little or too late. For speakers like Kirk, for activists, for anyone who steps into the limelight, could just speaking be a risk now? The line between passionate protest and danger feels thinner than ever. Charlie Kirk's killing isn't just another isolated tragedy. In America right now, it's a symbol. For supporters, it's proof that conservative voices are under real threat. For critics, it's a warning of what can happen when political discourse becomes dehumanizing and when ideologies cross the line into hostility. Meanwhile, civil liberties scholars, journalists, young people, everyone is asking, where do we draw the boundary between free speech and incitement? How do you protect safety without stifling dissent? And can politics survive if its participants are afraid to speak? Soon after the manhunt, law enforcement arrested 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. He was charged with aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, and obstruction of justice. Court filings note that Robinson allegedly confessed to a family member who then tipped off authorities. Bail was denied. Prosecutors indicated the possibility of prosecuting this as a capital offense. Among the critical evidence, a rifle discovered near campus believed to be the weapon, surveillance footage tracking Robinson arriving early, ascending stairwells to a rooftop, and live video showing him during attack-adjacent moments. Bullet casings were recovered, some engraved with anti-fascist slogans and even internet meme-style phrases like, "Hey fascist, catch," or "Notices, bulges, OWO, what's this?" Investigators appear to believe this evidence points toward a premeditated ideological motive. While the evidence suggests ideological motivations, the picture is complicated. Robinson has no previous criminal record. He is a technical college student. Friends and neighbors say he was mostly quiet, reserved. Over time, however, Robinson reportedly grew more politically vocal online, opposing many of Charlie Kirk's ideas. Engraved ammo, messaging behavior, surveillance timelines, these have led many experts to describe his actions as radicalization plus planning. But mental health professionals and legal analysts caution, ideology alone doesn't define motive wholly, and motive may include personal grievances, psychological disturbances, or external influences. Within hours after the charges were announced, Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, issued statements vowing to continue his work and framing his death as a call to arms, figuratively, for conservative political activism. The conservative movement treated Kirk's killing as a major turning point. Trump announced plans to posthumously award Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Flags were ordered at half-staff. Meanwhile, vigils, campus memorials, and social media tributes poured in. The event reignited debates over political polarization, violence, free speech, and accountability. Republican leaders largely pointed fingers at radical left rhetoric. Democratic voices emphasized that no one should be demonized to the point where violence becomes seen as inevitable. Many analyses warned that this could become a precedent. If political violence becomes normalized, if extremists believe violent action garners attention or martyrdom. Also, universities and public event organizers started evaluating security protocols urgently. Crowd size, screening, rooftop vantage points, measures they'd perhaps never considered necessary at this scale. Almost immediately, false and misleading claims began circling. Some misidentified the suspect as belonging to different political groups. Others altered footage to suggest complicity by various actors. Extremist social media platforms used Kirk's death for propaganda, recruitment, and staking out narrative ground. Mainstream media began debates about whether the shooter had been radicalized through online content, whether social media platforms had contributed, and whether speech restrictions or more regulation might follow. The public's demand for clarity was high, but often the demand was met with competing stories, conspiracy, or selective framing, depending on one's political lens. Kirk's assassination may become a watershed moment. It underscores how divided the country feels, how fraught political speech has become. It might trigger legislation on gun control, on public event security, even on how we monitor extremist content online. It may also exacerbate polarization. Some will see Kirk as a martyr, others will see this as evidence of failure in regulating hate speech and radicalization. Either way, the cultural cost is real. Fear at events, hesitancy in speech, more distrust. On a human level, his family deals with grief, his supporters with rage and urgency, his critics with concern, perhaps relief, perhaps fear about what this might mean if political violence becomes catchable rather than condemnable. The story ends here, for now, but the questions it raises will likely echo for a long time. Charlie Kirk's story does not end with the headlines. It lives on in debates about free speech, political violence, security, and how Americans confront their differences. Whether you agreed with him or not, his killing is a grim reminder of what's at stake when words turn into targets. If this documentary helped you understand the full picture behind the tragedy, please consider subscribing and sharing so more people can engage with verified information instead of rumors. Together, we can keep telling stories that matter and hopefully learn how to argue without violence.